so we got our hook. We're going to put it in the vise, and we're going to get started with the first material, which is lead-free round wire. This is a .030, and we're going to do the entire hook shank in this lead wire. So you're going to need to pull off like a 4 or 5 inch section and just wrap it all the way up the hook shank. And once you get up to the bead, you'll rip it off and just push that into the bead. That's going to hold that thing into place. You could use just, lead eyes or something if you wanted to. But this is the way I like doing this because it's a little bit different, So next up is we're going to grab our thread, and in this instance I've got a GSP 100, and that is pretty much only because that's what's in the bobbin. And you're going to start on the lead-free wire and go to the back and just create a little thread dam that's going to hold all that wire and actually kind of push it up into the bead. We're going to cut the tag. So that is going to be just kind of pushing the scissors into the GSP, and that's what causes it to break, because it can be kind of a pain to cut. And then we're going to lay down a Zap-A-Gap super glue layer and just come back at it with the thread, and that's going to hold everything into place, all of the wire, and then the next stuff that we're going to put in the Marabou, which is a barred Marabou. It's blood quill, tan, rust, and so it's got a barring. It's pretty cool. From Montana Fly Company. The normal stuff is for a Tequeely is you use a yellow and a black, but I like doing it this way, and this is my tutorial. So I take 2 feathers, hold it together, and just kind of matching it to be somewhat as long as the hook is, and trying not to get the super glue on it because that's annoying. And then we're going to go ahead and super glue is still super wet, so that's really going to hold all this stuff onto the hook shank and give it a good thick body. And I just wrap that from the tail all the way up to the bead, and then I'm going to cut each section of the Marabou. Alright, then we're going to go back down to the tail and just get everything good and secure and keep on wrapping. And what this is going to do is it's going to help the body of this fly to be a little bit thicker. So you don't have to do that, but I like the body of these to actually look somewhat like a big, thick crayfish. So everything looks decent and in order. So now we're going to take Estaz. This is a metallic, and it's a dark copper. You could use the copper, like the one from Fulling Mill is the closest I've found is an actual just copper. But in this instance I'm doing a dark copper, again, because this is what I like. I think it looks cool. Looks like our crayfish here in the rivers around Virginia. So you just go ahead and tie that in with a fair amount, probably about 8 inches coming off the back of the hook. And then I'm just going to, again, make this body nice and clean and level. And then we're going to go to the next step, which is, this isn't going to be one of the more annoying parts, but if you do this wrong, then at the end it's going to be annoying. So this is medium round rubber in yellow. I'm just going to pull off one strand. And there's a lot of different ways you could tie this in. I end up doing it similar to how I do my stoneflies. So you could wrap it in just right in the middle and leave 2 legs off each side. That would be perfectly fine, just like what we got right here, and wrap up the chenille. But what we're going to do is I take that one extra strand and just take it all the way across the body and tie it in like so. I do that way all of the legs are sort of pointed backwards. And you're just going to repeat that process. So we're going to end up having 6 legs in this guy. So again, you just take the yellow strand of medium round rubber, wrap over it, and then pull it to the other side and tighten it down. And with the 100 GSP, I mean, you can put a lot of force. You could actually rip these legs if you put too much. So I just do enough to lock it into place. Not so much that it's going to break anything. And Keep it pretty tight. Sometimes I'll go in and just take a dab of super glue to all those, but just if you do that, it has to be perfect, at the point that you put the super glue in. So when you do it this way, it gives you a little bit of margin for error. So I put a 1/2 inch in, and that's just to keep that thread from not rolling off. And then here's the annoying part, which is wrapping up this Estaz. So what we're going to do is I'm holding all 3 legs at the same time and pulling them off and back away from the Estaz, and just progressively wrapping the Estaz up. Then when you get to a leg, you hold it in place where you want it to be and wrap over it. Alright, so I've wrapped that Estaz all the way up, got the legs where I want them, I've tied down the Estaz, and that's it. That is the fly. And these things fish really well on our local rivers. So I've gone ahead and trimmed off that and put down a whip finish once we get the legs exactly where we want them. And this is one of the things I was saying about just, you can adjust them however you want. They'll move around some, but you go in with the scissors and just kind of trim them up and make them look as even as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to go ahead and whip finish and add a little bit of super glue, and then this guy is done. And there's a lot of different ways you can make these. I tie these on a jig hook so that way it goes hook point up, because the bass love eating these things on the drop. So it means typically you're fishing them pretty deep, and just letting them go to the bottom and give them a little twitch or a little strip here and there. And works well for bass, works well for other species too, even like redfish, that sort of thing. But add a little bit of super glue, and that is the finished fly. Of course, you can get all the materials here in the shop, and email me if you have any questions.
I'm in my zone, can't fail.